I wasn't supposed to stop there. That's the part one remind myself of every time I think about that night. I was driving through southern Missouri. Hours passed when I should have pulled over, following a two-lane highway that cut straight through dense forest, the kind where the trees lean inward and block out everything except your headlights and your thoughts. There were no streetlights, no billboards, no houses, just miles of road and the low hum of my engine. My phone had lost signal nearly 40 minutes earlier, and the radio kept fading in and out, switching between static and distant country stations that never stayed long enough to finish a song. I was tired, the kind of tired where your eyes burn and every mile marker feels like a personal challenge, and when I saw the motel sign appear out of the darkness on the left side of the road, it felt less like a choice and more like relief. The sign said Brookside Motel, the letters unevenly lit, one of them flickering like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or give up entirely. A narrow road led from the highway into a clearing surrounded by forest on all sides, and the motel stood there alone, taller than I expected, rising up in a way that felt out of place for such a remote area. I slowed down, pulling into the gravel parking lot, noticing how quiet everything suddenly was. No insects. No wind. Just my engine ticking as it cooled. There was a tow truck parked near the edge of the lot, angled slightly toward the trees, its headlights off, like it had been abandoned mid-task. I remember thinking that was strange, but exhaustion has a way of making strange things feel manageable. Inside, the lobby was dim and outdated, frozen somewhere in the late 1990s. The carpet was patterned in dull reds and browns, worn thin in places where decades of footsteps had passed. Behind the counter sat a woman, maybe in her late 40s or early 50s, wearing a faded cardigan and glasses that magnified her eyes just enough to make her expression hard to read. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I asked if they had a room for the night. She didn't check a computer. She didn't flip through a ledger. She simply reached under the counter and placed a single key on the surface between us. The metal tag hanging from it read 909. I hesitated, glancing past her at the hallway that led deeper into the building. "What floor is that?" I asked, already feeling silly for questioning it. She paused, just for a second, then said, "The 9th, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Her voice was calm, flat, practiced. I paid in cash without really thinking about it, signed a blank line on a form I never got to read, and took the key. As I turned toward the elevator, I noticed something that should have bothered me more than it did. The lobby ceiling felt lower than it should have been for a building that tall. The elevator sat at the end of a narrow hallway, its metal doors scratched and dull, the kind that reflect light without showing a clear image. When I pressed the call button, it took longer than expected, the mechanism responding with a deep, grinding sound from somewhere above. When the doors finally opened, the interior looked even older, wood-paneled walls, a flickering fluorescent light, and buttons that had been pressed so many times the numbers were nearly worn smooth. As the elevator began to climb, it moved slowly, painfully slowly, each floor announced by a heavy mechanical clunk that echoed through the shaft. The higher it went, the colder it felt, like the air itself was thinning. When the doors opened on the 9th floor, I knew immediately something was wrong. The hallway didn't match the rest of the motel. The carpet was darker, almost black, and the walls were unfinished, raw concrete in some places, stained in others, as if this floor had never been meant for guests. The lighting was uneven, long fluorescent fixtures buzzing softly, leaving patches of shadow where the light simply didn't reach. The air smelled old, damp, like a basement that hadn't been opened in years. I told myself it was just an older section of the building, maybe under renovation, but the silence up there felt heavy, deliberate. Room 909 was at the end of the hall. As I walked, I noticed the room numbers didn't follow any pattern. Some were missing entirely. Others were scratched out, replaced with numbers written directly onto the door in black marker. When I reached my door, I slid the key into the lock, my hand trembling slightly despite my efforts to stay calm. The door opened with a soft click, and the moment I stepped inside, I realized I wasn't alone. I couldn't see anyone clearly, but I could feel it, the pressure in the room, the sense that something had shifted because I was there now. The room itself looked wrong. The furniture was outdated, mismatched, and positioned in a way that didn't make sense, like it had been moved without purpose. The curtains were drawn, but I could see moonlight bleeding through the fabric. And then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. Controlled. Coming from somewhere near the bathroom. Panic hit me all at once, sharp and overwhelming. I backed toward the door, locked myself out of the room, and ran back down the hall toward the elevator, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. I pressed the elevator button repeatedly, but it didn't respond. Instead, the hallway lights flickered, and for a brief moment, I could have sworn the hallway stretched longer than it had before. Desperate, I pulled out my phone and called the front desk. The line rang once, then connected. "There is someone in my room," I said, my voice shaking. "Room 909. There was silence on the other end, then the woman's voice, calm and confused. "Ma'am," she said slowly, "there is no 9th floor." Before I could respond, the line went dead. When the elevator finally arrived, I rushed inside and pressed the lobby button. As the doors closed, I looked down at the panel again. Floors 1 through 8. No 9. When I reached the lobby, it was empty. The counter unattended. The lights dimmer than before. Outside, the tow truck was gone. My car was the only one left in the lot. I didn't stop to think. I got in, started the engine, and drove back toward the highway without looking back. But I did glance in my rearview mirror once, just once, and where the motel had stood moments before, there were only 8 floors visible against the night sky. I spent the next few days asking around nearby towns, mentioning Brookside Motel casually, like it was just another place I'd stayed. No one had heard of it. Not the gas station clerks. Not the diners. Not even the county records office. According to them, there had never been a motel with 9 floors anywhere in that region. And every time I drive through southern Missouri now, every time I pass a road that disappears into the forest, I think about that key. About room 909. And about how some places aren't meant to be found twice.